In today's episode, we talk to Amy Diener. Amy is an artist from the US and is now based in Thailand, where she shares her passion for dot painting with students across multiple schools in Bangkok. In this episode, we dive into her artistic journey, the inspiration behind her unique style, and how she built her creative team from the ground up. Don't miss this insightful conversation on art, collaboration, and following your passion. So without any further ado, here's the episode. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Curious Coconut Podcast. As always, I'm here joined by my wonderful co-host Adi, and today we're also here with a special guest whom I've met on LinkedIn. Without revealing too much about Amy, why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Sure. My name is Amy Diener, and I'm an artist and educator from New York originally. And I've been based in Bangkok, Thailand for the last 11 years. And my specialty is in dot paintings. I call myself the dot queen. Since I've started calling myself that, other people have called me that as well. So I'm like the queen of dots. I incorporate dots exclusively in all of my artworks. And my work is inspired by mindfulness, travel, and my personal experiences. So that's just a little bit about me.
Yeah, that's very cool. Is that how you usually spend your days as well?
So I spend my days doing a variety of things. One thing is I work on commissions. Lately, I've been getting a lot of painting commissions. So I do dot paintings of people's pets,
Okay.
Also portraits of individuals. On top of that, I also run an after-school art program in dot painting at about 32 international schools here in Bangkok.
Oh, wow.
And we offer activities at schools such as Bangkok Patana, KIS, NIST, etc. The list goes on. And I have a team of teachers and assistants that I train that go into the schools and teach the kids after school. And that's a lot of fun, all about focus, creativity, and mindfulness.
Yeah, that sounds really amazing. I'm I tried painting once, but I'm not very good at it. But do you want to quickly explain what dot painting is, like technically? Because I haven't really heard of it much before.
Sure. So you can think of dot painting back in the late 1800s where they were using pointillism like Seurat. You can also think of Australian Aboriginal artwork where they use sticks and show their dreams through their dot art. But for
Oh,
me, it's like kind of like a new modern twist. It's called dotalism, kind of the movement in the art. A lot of
okay.
artists are doing it, like tens of thousands of artists are incorporating dots in their work. So essentially, you're using a circle, and most of the time, you're also using tools. So, like for example, like this is like a dotting tool that you can see in front of me right here.
Okay.
When I paint my artworks, I actually don't use tools. I use brushes, which is quite challenging. But when we teach the children, we always use the tools because it's much easier, a
Mm-hmm.
less of a learning curve. And it's been incredibly soothing for me to do the dot painting because you want to focus on each colorful dot and just be in the moment, and everything else kind of like dissipates away because you're just present and focused.
Yeah, sounds really wonderful. I think I'm going to ask some really basic technical questions, um, just to start off, so just so I have a better understanding. So, like, are you painting dots with the paintbrushes, like singular dots?
Yes. So I'm painting so my tagline is spreading joy one dot at a time. So everything is
Love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
everything is literally one dot at a time. So it's
Yeah.
like each individual dot that you add. So
Wow.
you load the brush with
Yeah.
acrylic paint and then you dot and repeat that process over and over and over again. So it's
Yeah.
actually super repetitive. And because it's so repetitive, that's why it makes it very like meditative and therapeutic.
Mm.
You're doing
Yeah.
the same thing over and over again, which some people might find boring, but for me, it's very soothing and peaceful.
Mm-hmm. And like how far apart is a dot, or do like dots even overlap at times?
Dots, I mean, you can do anything you want with your dots. I
Okay.
don't like
Okay.
for me, I only like when they overlap, when they layer on top of each other. So I can create
That's
Okay.
like
cool.
really
Yeah.
like three-dimensional dots with like sometimes 20 to 30 layers of
Right.
dots, and it looks like a big bubble or a jewel crystal.
Mm. The first
Yeah.
thing I was thinking when you brought up dot painting was that it's somehow quite daunting, because when you paint with strokes, for example, right?
Mhm.
It's quite quick. It's like one motion and you can cover quite a lot of ground. whereas with dots, it's tends to be quite small, doesn't it? And so like my question is, like, if you mess up, for example, wouldn't it make you a little bit more upset about the piece because it takes so long?
So you can do dots in many different sizes. So you
Right.
can make small
Okay.
dots. You can also make like, you can use, like for me, bigger brushes, or for the kids, bigger tools in order to cover up more surface area
Okay.
in a less amount of time, if you know
Okay.
what I mean.
Yeah.
But there are actually simple techniques and tricks that you can use to remove the dot. Like you said, like if you're not happy with it,
Mm.
there are simple ways that you can just use a little Q-tip, a little bit of water, and you can just remove it, wipe and go, and carry on. Or you can just say, hey, screw it, just leave it,
Scratch the whole
and
thing.
let it be, and
Yeah.
just carry on.
I'm
Yeah,
also
it doesn't cause me anxiety.
okay. Okay. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah, but maybe some people it could. I don't know. Everyone's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what drew you to the technique of dot painting?
For me, because like each dot is like almost like a repetitive form of artwork. I have OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. I'm very open about this. So like I have a lot of repetitive thoughts in my brain, and I have behaviors that usually are internal that I just repeat, like almost like a on a cycle. And so when I create the dot paintings, I kind of step out from that and I step in towards something that I think is quite beautiful and inspirational. Instead of suffering, I distract myself with something that brings me joy, and that I also can share my story and talk to others and make them feel like they're not alone, even if they have been going through whatever kind of mental health condition that they have been going through.
Yeah. It's really amazing that you can, you know, use painting as a means to get a better mental health state. And like having that as a meditative practice, but you also enjoy that. So you're almost meditating, but in a very different form. And Tong and I we talk a lot about meditation on the podcast because we love meditating. So it's really interesting how you found your own unique touch to meditation. Um,
Because personally,
yeah.
for me, I find it very, very, very challenging with my brain to just sit and meditate
Mm,
without having a task on hand.
yeah.
And I know that that's something that I could practice, but with someone who does have OCD, it's a harder learning curve for us because our brain just
Right.
carries on. So doing this, I find where I'm embodying a particular repetitive process has
Hmm.
been a lot more useful for me.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, it's great. Like, when I meditate, I focus on my breath and repeating, like, just taking in, breathing in and out. But for you, I guess it's like repeat,
Focus on the dot.
yeah,
Focus on the
yeah,
dot.
just making one dot. And so it's like,
One
it's
dot.
really amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, like, as far as I can remember, right? Like, I think I did like thumb painting as a child, and you could say in some form is similar to dot painting. I'm not saying this is as technical. Um, but what got you started? Like, when did you start dot painting, and what drew you to like painting in general?
Actually, it happened in 2016. I was dating a guy, and he was creating a lot of pictures that incorporated dots in his work,
Hmm.
and a lot of
Mhm.
like mandalas. Mandalas are a reflection of the self in the universe. And so we were creating a body of work that we were planning to exhibit in Singapore together.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think I just kind of got inspired by his work. And then like dots just started naturally emerging in my work. And I sort of went with it. I had some like, quick brush strokes combined with these dots. And then I did a master's program in art education, concentrating in painting. And my professor was like, what would happen if you do a painting with only dots? Like, what would that do? And I just fell in love with it instantly. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's so therapeutic. I'm obsessed with it, like in a good way.
Yeah, for sure. Um, just for I think the listeners, they can't see what's behind you right now, but that's really beautiful art. I really like it. Do you, yeah, it's awesome. How do you pick the colors that you do for these paintings? Do you have
So
like,
typically, like one way is based on my feelings and emotions that could be happening that day. Another way is based on just visual aesthetics, the way I see colors, like that I think will bring joy and feel like uplifting for the viewer.
Mm,
And then the last way I do it is based on my travel encounters. Sometimes I incorporate like colors from cityscapes and landscapes. Like, for example, like I went to Barcelona and I collected all these stones along the beach, and then I incorporated like colors of the sunset into the mandala dot painting. So it depends, various different ways and approaches. But yeah, I'm quite obsessed with color, and I think I have a good take on color.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to have that if you're a painter, but um, I'm just wondering, like, what would you say is the favorite piece that you've created so far? And like how was that process like? I just want to know like the process of an artist, right? So yeah, can you just talk a little bit about like one of the favorite pieces you have created and what led you to it? What was the inspiration and how did it come together?
Right. Actually, one of my favorite pieces was a 1 by 1 meter mandala dot painting that was I worked on over a series of like a year and a half. It kind of emerged into two different paintings and went through various exhibitions because I kept changing and layering and adding colors, new colors on top where you could still see like slight little edges of the colors underneath. And when I changed it, it created a whole nother like effect, and it started to look like almost like M&Ms, like, or candy dots, like really thick, like you want to touch it, or it's like juicy, you want to eat it. So it created like this like almost sense of like childhood, like bringing you
Yeah.
back to your childhood. And that one right now is currently in Dubai because I did a art fair in Dubai a few years back, and I'm in the process of getting the painting back or selling it. I'm not sure exactly where the next step for this painting is, but it's called Zen.
it's called
Hmm.
Zen. Okay. Could we
Yeah.
search it up as well? Is it on the internet?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. That's
You
Okay.
can
awesome.
you can easily search my name as well, and most of my artworks will come up. But if you search this one specifically, I have a website and
Yeah.
you will see it. I've also licensed my art out to many different brands, and so some of those brands have used that particular design. So
Mm,
I've used it in various ways and contexts.
Hmm.
yeah, that's awesome.
And
Uh,
is this one like a abstract painting or is there like sort of a landscape or something?
So this one's like a mandala, so it has a center point,
Okay.
and then everything like radiates out with concentric circles from that center point. So this one
Okay.
starts from the center and then comes outwards with dots, and it's like boom, boom, boom,
Okay.
boom. A lot
Yeah.
of
And just so I
Interesting.
understand correctly, mandala is like circular kind of patterns, right? They radiate
exactly.
from the start. Okay.
Originally from India,
Hmm.
originally, but it's been used in many different countries. Tibetan monks um, still to this day create sand paintings of mandalas, and they create these beautiful intricate designs outside using colored sand, and then they let the wind blow it away, so it represents like impermanence.
Mm.
Wow.
That sounds really cool. I think
Yeah,
this reminds me something that in the Hindu, because I'm Indian, and in Diwali we create these like rangolis. I don't know if you're aware of
yeah,
them.
yeah, it has that similar kind of look. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think as a child, like I really used to love creating them, like because you with the Rangoli, basically, you have like these powdered colors, and then you kind of just arrange them in different patterns. Sometimes you can follow a stencil, sometimes you can do it freehand. So it's a lot of fun, like creating them. So I'm guessing like that's kind of the inspiration behind mandala painting or something related to it.
Yeah.
A question I had while we were talking as well was, you mentioned earlier that you had a team here in Thailand as well. So how did your team come together, and so you guys just go out to these schools and then teach like children how to do dot art?
Yeah, so the team came together. Honestly, it was first originally me. I used
Yeah.
to teach art at the American School of Bangkok for 7 years, so I built lots of connections with like principals and teachers
Mm,
around Bangkok. And then I quit my job in 2020 and I opened up my own company. And maybe within like 4 to 6 months, I started doing after school activities, specifically in dot painting, and I was the one teaching it. I didn't have an assistant. I was doing it on my own. I started from one school, 2 children, continued. That school turned into 9, 15, 20, etc. Added more schools in. And then I realized I'm only one human. I cannot do so much. And I started to get assistants and then like one teacher. And then it kind of just like was a domino effect, and it just continued to expand, reaching out to more schools, getting our program into more schools. And like the first person that came to me was because she was working with me to sell my artwork. And then turned out she's really great with kids too. And she's really good with art. So it just kind of like ended up working, and she referred like her friends that she worked with. And then it just like continued from there, kind of like a referral system. And now there's 22 of us. So it's definitely grown. And everyone that is on my team are like, in a way, educators and artists, and I train them to do the dot painting. And each week in our classes, the kids learn a new dot painting technique. I design a worksheet that they use to learn different patterns. And then the kids get a material to paint on. And usually it's between 8 and 10 weeks per term.
Wow, that's amazing. And I'm just curious, like, what is it like teaching little kids art? I feel like that would be a really rewarding experience.
For me, like it gives me a lot of joy, and I like seeing other children like just focused and enjoying painting and doing the dot painting. Like it's about prioritizing their sense of mindfulness, prioritizing their sense of joy over the actual technique at hand. Although we do like it when, they're working hard to understand it, but in the end, it's just about them being in the present moment and like expressing their creativity. And that gives all of us a lot of joy.
Yeah, I
Everything
can imagine.
joy.
Uh,
This is a bit of a deep question, but what does art mean to you, Amy?
I would say that art is a form of communication for me. It's a way to express myself, and it's also a way to communicate, tell stories, connect with others, build a community. It's about healing for myself and for others to experience that through artwork.
hmm. Yeah, I think it's really amazing how, art is the longest thing that has survived, um, like, across generations and across, I don't know, thousands of years. And it's just like stories, like way of a way of storytelling. And I feel like that has really powerful elements to it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I just want to know, how would you say like your artistic style has evolved over, like, from when you started? Has there been any major changes since you started?
So I would say, well, I studied art, studied teaching art. And then when I moved here in 2013 in Bangkok, my artworks were using a lot of colorful, bold brushstrokes inspired by like the colors of Bangkok, the taxis, the temples. And then like they were always quite joyful though, but like then, like I was mentioning previously, dots started emerging into my artwork, and then I went like full blown dots in 2016. And like since then, like I've explored like subjects like mandalas. I have a lot of like animal dot paintings. I've done like figures, portraits. I've sort of like expanded into different subjects, and also doing commissions, so making it personal to somebody else as well. I'm about to undertake a commission of one of my clients and her good friend who were traveling in Nepal. And so she gave me a picture of them with the beautiful landscape behind, and then I'm going to turn it into a dot painting. So I'm excited about that, as well as it's also manifested onto 3D objects. So I'm an artist with the Elephant Parade, which is a social organization in Thailand. They raise awareness and money for elephant conservation. And so they have the world's largest hand painted elephant statues that go around the world. So
Oh,
my
wow.
elephant right now is at the Sheraton Orchard by the river. So you can see it's a full size, like 55 kg elephant, like maybe a
Oh,
meter and a half.
yeah.
So it's cool, like also to apply that dot technique on a 3D surface. It creates its own levels of challenges, and it's quite fun and enjoyable. So I
Wait, so
guess
how? How does
Yeah.
that work? Yeah, because I don't know. Are you trying to paint the elephant in its natural state, or are you trying to like create more like
It's a
art?
statue.
Yeah.
It's not a real elephant that we're
Yeah, yeah,
painting.
yeah, no, no, no.
Oh,
But
okay,
like,
okay. So some
are
people think that. I know. I'm
no,
like,
no,
no,
no.
no,
I
no.
got that. Yeah. But I'm just curious. Like, what are you painting on the elephant itself in the
I
statue?
so the elephant that I created was called I titled it Blue Elephant in the Room. So the symbol of a blue elephant in a room is actually it represents a safe space to discuss mental health
Hmm.
freely and safely. And so when you have a blue elephant, it's like it can open up a conversation however you're feeling, your emotions, if you're going through anxiety, etc. So I literally painted like a dot painted blue elephant. So I thought this is perfect, and it's in the room in the Sheraton.
Yeah.
And it moves around. So it was in Central Rama 9, moved to Anantara Riverside. It went for a parade in Phuket, and now it's been in Sheraton. And there's going to be a parade, I believe, in February, and it's going to go to Talat Noi. But it does go internationally as well. Just my elephant hasn't yet.
Hmm. Yeah, that sounds really
It
cool.
will
Your
Yeah,
eventually.
it seems
So
like your elephant's
yeah,
doing a lot of traveling. Yeah.
yeah. It's traveling a lot, and it's really heavy. So
Yeah.
I'm not the one carrying it around.
yeah.
Thankfully.
Um, you also said that your artwork is healing. What do you mean by that actually?
So for me, because like for me, it's about how can I describe this? Like it's therapeutic because the
Hmm.
healing aspect is that sort of meditative aspect of the repetition
Okay.
of creating the dots. And I also think that it can be healing for other people when they're viewing it because it sort of gives you that sense of peace, serenity, and also can uplift you when viewing, or if you're creating it yourself, for example.
Mhm. Yeah, I see.
Yeah. Yeah. And one other question I want to ask is, do you ever feel like you're burning out? Because I know a lot of artists feel that way. And if so, like, what are some techniques you use to overcome that burnout?
Sleep.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is that the secret?
I de- I definitely do go through that. Like I feel like I can get to the point where I feel like I'm on overload and my body doesn't do well with overload. I can actually if this it's hot in Bangkok and the sun if it hits me for an extended period of time, I can faint. So it affects me physically. So I've learned kind of like I do like I have an acupuncturist that helps me take my pulse and stuff like that and like be like, okay, Amy, you're and I feel it already. It's like, okay, you're at overload, like rest, drink a lot of water, relax. And then that helps to reset.
Hmm.
Because yeah, you don't want to experience burnout
Yeah.
to the maximum because
Yeah. And I know like to travel a lot as well. Do you feel like your surroundings and the places you're in have an impact on the type of art you're creating?
yeah, for sure. I mean, we were talking about elephant art, right? Elephants are huge symbols in Thailand. So there's one aspect, tuning into the, national animals of the country, tuning into the color palettes of traveling. And then always just like meeting artists in different locations, meeting new people and building that like sense of community. I do a lot of like art fairs and art markets. And then when I go back and visit New York, I will do one and I'll get introduced to a new community. I went to Qatar in April,
Hmm.
and I'm going back actually in December to stay at the Chivas Home in Qatar, which is called Zulal, and they're like a 5-star wellness resort. So they invite me in as like a visiting practitioner, and I go in and I paint on site. So I actually painted like the national animal of Qatar, which is the oryx. And then I also offered classes to the guests, mostly from Qatar, some from Europe, and stuff like that. So yeah, I like to tune into different aspects of the culture and the colors and the
That's
Hmm.
people.
it's so great that you get to travel as well. Not just doing the thing that you love, but then also getting to travel as well, meeting these communities. That's definitely great. I was just about to ask you like how you get into these communities to begin with, but then is it just kind of, people telling each other about it? There's no kind of like secret way to enter this community?
So there's no secret way, but I think it's all about like building a brand
Building a brand.
and really like taking time to build it. Cause like right now been doing this, I've been doing dot painting for I guess the last 8 years, right?
Mhm.
And I probably wouldn't be going to Qatar and, teaching their guests 8 years
Mhm.
ago, right? So it's like really a matter of like, yeah, building yourself as an artist,
Yeah.
building your style, getting yourself out there, visibility. People know, like now it's like I can walk around and someone's like, I know your art, oh, you're that dot artist. Like it's sort of like, and then it becomes easier, right?
Yeah.
And then once you go to one place, you have that in your portfolio, it's easier to get other places. Same thing with schools. Like once you have like 5 top tier schools in your portfolio, then when you approach a new school, or maybe even vice versa, like people will approach me too now, which didn't happen in the past. And I'm very like, I make sure to do like this. I make sure to do podcasts. I make sure to have my name represented like in articles, interviews, so that like I increase my SEO. Like now Chat GPT knows me. So
Hey, that's
Chat
great.
GPT actually helped me with a lot of answers to these questions, which I'm
Okay.
not actually reading off, but
Yeah.
I have them in the background
Yeah,
because
that's
Chat
great.
GPT knows me. So it can answer the way that I would answer without thinking. It's a
That's
little bit
Mm.
that's
creepy,
great.
but like, you know,
Definitely
if
great though.
I listen to you, I will copy and paste afterwards, and
Yeah.
you will see it sounds like exactly what I'm saying, but it
Wow.
just did it for me. Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, time building your brand, and then things start to align. You get one thing, and then things build off, and it becomes, like I said, like kind of like a domino effect. But
Yeah.
it's not something I don't believe in the whole night overnight viral thing. I mean, I guess it can happen, but that wasn't how I built my brand. I
Yeah.
built it over time, hard
Yeah.
work,
Just being
patience,
consistently doing
connection,
it. Yeah.
consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Look, Amy, I think we'd love to keep talking to you, but we realized that you're in a bit of a time crunch today. So we're gonna head into the closing section of the podcast.
sure.
Um, so one of the questions I want to ask is like, what is there any piece of art that has a major impact on you personally? Like, this doesn't have to be your own art, but like just something that you've seen that really inspired you to do something else.
Yeah, actually, so one of my all-time favorite artists is Yayoi Kusama. She's a famous polka dot
Mhm.
artist from Japan. And she is like totally quirky. She also dresses up in her artwork, similar
Oh,
like me. And she uses dots in all of her work. And she also deals with a lot of mental health issues. She has hallucinations. She has schizophrenia, things that not maybe not I don't have personally, but and she uses her art also as a coping mechanism so that she can also be a mental health advocate. So I guess she's kind of one of my role models and idols, Yayoi Kusama. I've
Definitely.
seen her work in real life too, but I've never met her.
Oh wow. Where
But there
was
was
this in
someone
Japan?
who there was a child who wrote an article and looked at 2 dot painters, and they looked at Yayoi and me. So I was like, "Wow, I'm
Oh,
getting
that's
compared to
amazing.
Yayoi.
there we
Yeah.
Oh,
go.
cool. I like this."
And
Yeah,
how
I went in Japan.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
And like, how would you say her work has inspired yours?
I think just like how she communicates through her art, and the fact that she
Mm,
Mm.
also, you know, struggles with mental health issues and
yeah.
uses her art as a way to spread awareness and share her story. And also the fact that she uses dots in her artwork.
Yeah, yeah, fair
But
enough.
I would say she has a completely different style to
Mm,
me. She also does like 3D dot painted like pumpkins, where I'm doing like the 3D dot painted elephant. So
yeah,
there's sort
Yeah.
of like a
that's great.
crossover there. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Another question we love to ask our viewers is, I mean, our guests, sorry, is about their favorite book. Because we here at the Curious Coconut, we love to read. So if you have any favorite books or podcasts or something, do you mind sharing it with our listeners?
So there's a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, and it's an amazing resource for you to like tap into your creativity, whether
Mhm.
you're an artist or not, and encourages you to explore your personal expression through healing and art.
Okay,
I'll
I'll
leave you
definitely
at
be
that.
checking that out. Yeah, sounds super fun. And the last question we want to ask you is like, do you have anything to share with our audience? This could be a message or a plug for something that you're doing. Really anything.
Let's see. What do I have to share with my audience? I guess like a message, like if you're, pursuing art, like don't give up. There's ways that you can commercialize it, that make sure you have a story, build your brand, kind of what I was talking about before. And I think like build your style and you will get there, but don't expect it to happen overnight.
Oh,
That's my
love that.
message. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Amy, for coming on. It was great talking to you, and yeah, wish you all the best.
Thank you so much for having me.